Thank you, everybody, for coming to this session of Animation Assemble this afternoon. This feels strangely weird. This is the first live panel I've done for ages, having done quite a few Zoom ones. Right, before we get started, I need to say a huge and massive thank you to our sponsor of this session, Animation UK. Animation UK have been long-time supporters of CMC, and we are very pleased to list them again this year. So thank you very much. So we are here today to talk about whether children's animation can be a force for good. But before we do that, I would like each one of these lovely panel members to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Andrew at the end.
Hi, my name's Andrew Kavanagh. I'm the CEO and founder of Cavalier Productions, animation studio based in Dublin. Do you want more? I also sing and do children's parties.
Oh, yes, he does.
I gotta get that.
Marika.
Yeah, my name is Marika Makarov. I'm the founder and creative or CCO of Katsi Animations that is based in Bristol and in Helsinki.
Thank you very much. And Lucy?
I'm Lucy Murphy and Director of Kids Content at Sky in the UK and Ireland.
And Tom?
Hello, my name's Tom Box. I'm co-founder of Blue Zoo Animation, headquartered in London.
Thank you very much, everybody. Nobody really needed an introduction, but it's good just to remind yourselves if you've had too much beer over the last day or two and so excitement of seeing everybody. So like I say, we're here today to talk about animation as a force for good, both on and off screen. I want to look first at diversity, particularly disability. How can we not only reflect this in the content we create, but as an industry, how can we employ a more diverse crew? I'm going to start with you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about Adam.
Yeah. So I guess we're working on a show called Adam Loves Adventure, and give you a bit of context on that. There's a 7-year-old boy in Ireland whose name is Adam King. And he has a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is brittle bone disease. And he appeared on Irish TV about 18 months ago for the first time, age 6, just gone 6, and spoke about his dream of working for NASA. And the host of the show asked him, would you not like to be an astronaut? Because he said he wants to be ground control. And he said, I can't go to space because of my condition. And we were in lockdown in Ireland, and everybody just heard this, and they were like, their hearts went out to this little child. So the reaction was pretty immediate. There was a viral kind of reaction to this online. Various people responded in different ways. He was contacted by Chris Hadfield, Tim Peake, the NASA contacted him. Ultimately, Joe Biden wrote to him and told him you inspired him, all these people. My reaction was, oh, I wonder, could I make a cartoon about this kid? Because I just, my heart was with his dream, and I suddenly realized, well, maybe we can, take Adam's story, and in Adam's story, he can go to space. So that was the reaction I had. I didn't think, I didn't know anything about the family, but I just reached out. It took a while to get past the they're very protective, but they were also thrust into the limelight. So they were getting lots of media attention. So I was just another media person trying to do something about this. So very delighted that they agreed to work with me on it and our studio. And so we're now developing that show. And we've done a Christmas special, which was really successful for RTE.
Great. So a little bit about diversity on screen. What about off screen? So what are we doing as an industry, if anything, to make being part of the crew more accessible? Tom, can you talk a little bit about the Screen Skills report?
Yeah, so there's a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives around, but it felt that as part of the Animation Skills Council, that disability was kind of a underrepresented inclusion part of the industry. So we decided to commission a report to find out really where we are, and critically what people who are working in the industry, who are disabled or aspiring to work in the industry, what their take is. And what that showed was a big discrepancy between what people thought and what the reality was. Where I think it was 75% of people working in the industry without a disability thought that the animation industry was being inclusive, but only 45% of people who had a disability felt it was being inclusive. So there was a big gap. And what it really showed up was there's a huge amount of awareness there needs to be a big awareness drive of what the things are that people can do, because I guess what those stats show, that people think they're doing enough because they want to help, they want to be inclusive, but they aren't necessarily aware of what they can be doing and all the extra things. So off the back of that report, there were various sessions set up so the recruitment teams in studios could be a lot more aware of what they can do to be more inclusive of talent with disabilities. And they also provided a simple kind of almost a checklist to give to studios to say, look, do these things and we'll chip away kind of reducing that gap between what needs to be done and what is currently done.
Okay. What are you doing at Blue Zoo?
At Blue Zoo with disabilities, we've made sure that all of our people and talent team, our recruitment team, have all had that training to make sure that we're doing everything we can to be more, to be inclusive of visible disabilities and non-visible disabilities. And the key thing there is to make sure that you're not making presumptions if you don't make presumptions to think that someone can't do the job, because there are many people with disabilities in the industry who absolutely excel in their jobs, and I think people can too easily assume that, that could be, they might not be able to do it or not do enough. So I think that training has gone a long way to make sure that we are being as inclusive and encouraging people to tell us about their disabilities so we can make sure that we're helping them.
And you're doing, with Adam Loves Adventures, has that kind of made you look a little bit more about what you're doing to make your studio more accessible? Yeah. We're
currently mostly remote at the moment, which actually is in some ways advantageous. The building we were in before wasn't the most accessible building. So where we are at the moment, we have a small office that's fully accessible. But our plans to expand the studio needs to take that into consideration. And one of the things, even when we recorded Adam, I was conscious that nearly every recording studio in Dublin that we could access were in the basements of old Edwardian buildings with these treacherous steps, for an able person, let alone somebody in a wheelchair. So there's a lot of considerations to take in. But as a project, we very much started, Adam's father is very much an activist, in this space. And this is why he wanted to, work with Cavalier, because we came at it from the right we come from Pablo with Paper Owl, so we'd had that experience, and we thought if we can carry that forward, what Grania and Gavin did with Pablo, to, in terms of inclusivity across the writing spectrum, if we can do that with Adam, but in a broader church around disability, that's the approach we wanted to take. So from day one, we worked with people with a variety of disabilities, including, we were delighted to get Lloyd Coleman from the Para Orchestra, who's the musical director down in Bristol. So we haven't worked with the orchestra yet, but Lloyd himself is hearing and vision impaired, and he just did a fantastic job on the composition for us. And then, on the writing, on the acting side as well, that we managed to find some great actors, and also on the writing side, because we're kind of in that place now at the moment. Just people who wouldn't have come on my radar if we hadn't had that policy, and we hadn't had that objective at the beginning of the project. And I'm exposed to a whole sort of range of talent now that just wasn't there. It was either wasn't coming to my inbox, or I wasn't looking hard enough, you know. So that has changed the way I think about hiring and the way we think about like the overall company. And if we're doing this for this one project, it can't just be for this project, you know. And why don't we just do it for every project we take on going forward? So that's going to be hardwired into the Cavalier approach from now on.
Okay, good. But, you know, the industry as a whole is kind of impacted by, there's a sort of huge amount of content being produced at the moment, so there's a huge amount of competition for artists, but also the budgets are shrinking. And as a production company, we need to be more inclusive, but how do we do that? How do we do that on the shrinking budgets? And also, how do we take care of our existing crew? How do we take care of our employee well-being? It makes it more and more difficult for companies to prioritise when the budgets are so tight. So, Lucy, what can the broadcasters do to help production companies navigate inclusivity on a shrinking budget?
I think it's important to sort of set targets, and we have got some really good targets at Sky. We've also invested a lot of money in terms of raising the inclusivity, not only in productions, but also at Sky. I mean, there are a lot of us at Sky, I think 26,000 people in the UK. So looking after our teams is really important, as well as making sure that we're sort of normalising it. And I think one of the really interesting things about sort of disability targets is it's not so much of a, you know, sometimes those conversations are difficult, as you said, and particularly with non-visible disabilities. Mm-hmm. But making sure that productions, both on screen and off screen, have got people being trained up, people being given opportunities, and on screen that those representations are made, so that, and made in a way that is normalising rather than sort of shining a spotlight and ticking a box. And you may think that's more difficult to do in animation, but actually it's, you know, think about the kind of casts of characters that we invent. I mean, I'm pretty sick of saying the only disability being ever a child in a wheelchair. That'll do. That's not going to cut it. We want to see, you know, a broader range and not make too much of it, because actually children who've got disabilities don't want to be othered.
Yeah. Marika, so Finland is known for being a pretty equal society.
Pretty.
How does that work in reality? Is it, and how inclusive is production?
Well, I think that productions all over the world, we have had this joke that women have been like the kind of hard workers, and then there has been a lot of like executives, male executives. But in Gutsy, we have now like 80% of our management, it's women. And also we support a lot of like women creatives in Gutsy. So I'm really happy to do that. But of course we have international teams. So we always work with international teams. So it's not only Finnish, because sometimes we are also kind of, it's really hard to find the talent right now. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we are working on. Yeah. What
about diversity?
Well, diversity in Finland, it's really hard, because as you know, there hasn't been like animation education before in Finland. Now Aalto University is starting the project, and we are helping that. So Gutsy is part of the kind of mentoring system there. So that's something that we are working on, so it's even harder. But of course, the world is open, and we need to just find the new ways of finding the right people to us. So that's really important.
So how does it I mean, you know, I know that there are certain networks as well that require a certain level of diversity in particular with the crew. How do you navigate that with Finland being such a not particularly diverse country?
Well, I think that we tried now, and this is just early days, but what we try to do is do the research that how to do concrete acts to kind of change that. And one of the ideas has been that some of our projects kind of naturally are drawn to the kind of structure that we could take, for example, and because we are still in talks with this one, but like 10 young people without any work experience, and we could kind of introduce them to the media business. And that's something that I have done previously in, for example, Fremantle Media. And that's something that when we started the kind of concrete process of bringing these young people to the media business and mentoring them through with the professionals, we really got good results. And people were more kind of encouraged that this can be done. And I think that we have to be clever and just find the ways that how to do that in a new way.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about inclusivity. This is, you know, animation as a force for good. There are several themes that we could be talking about here. I'd like to now touch on how we make animation work for the world and the community. So how can we make the industry have more of a positive influence in the world that we live in? Tom, can you talk a little bit about how Blue Zoo became a B Corp company and what that means?
Sure. So B Corp is probably the most recognised international certification for progressive social and environmental goals, very strict social and environmental goals. I think there's about 5,000 companies in the world that have achieved B Corp status. And essentially what it means is your company's audited across all areas where a lot of certifications might focus on sustainability and the environment. B Corp looks at everything from the way you treat your staff, to the way you treat your clients, to your local community, to the environment, and the way you govern your company as well. So you basically have to pass an exam and provide evidence of everything. So what it does is that it makes you measure all of the things that are really important. So they say you can't improve, or you don't know where you are unless you do kind of measure yourself, and that's what it's all about, and embedding that in the foundation of your company, and it's all based around transparency and trust. So whereas other, just getting a carbon audit might be ticking the box, B Corp is all about making sure that you're embedding it in the foundations of your company, so it's the kind of the opposite of box ticking. It's evidencing and being accountable to a third party that your company is doing everything that it can to be more progressive, and you're essentially using profit for purpose. And it's not seeing profit as a dirty word, it's saying with profit we can do good things and actually build that into our business model.
Is it a social enterprise? Can it be called a social enterprise?
Well, social enterprise is more of if a company is run with social goals, but a B Corp can be any limited company. And it can even be if your parent company is not very progressive, then you can still, the subsidiaries can still be kind of a B Corp as well. And it's more about making sure that you're on the right path, so similar to kind of Albert certification, to make sure that you're on the right path and you're constantly pushing forward to essentially so the company has a positive dent in the world.
Cool. Okay, thank you for explaining that. That's the sort of more formal certification. Marika, your motto is be good, be gutsy.
Or see good, be gutsy.
See good, be gutsy.
Yes. So I have been in a content business for 29 years, and I always hated the fact that people said that when you're watching TV or something on the screen, nothing happens in your brain. So we were talking I heard about like reading versus seeing or something like that, and I would never compare them. But I was really kind of angry about the fact that nothing happens in your brain when you're watching content. So I said that, what if I don't create a company, I create a movement, and the aim would be like, when you are watching something good, high-profile production, something would happen in your brain. You would get inspired. You would get, active. You would get uplifted, and therefore the kind of see good and be gutsy, have the gutsy to do something, be active. And why do I think that is so important? It's because of hope. In fact, just last year, after the COVID, last year during the COVID, there was this research that showed that 56% of young adults thinks that humanity is doomed. And what does it mean as a creator? And at the same time that in Dordekim research, it says that if you don't have the vision for the hopeful future, you can lose 10 years of your life. And I was like, as a content creator and doing something for children, we have to do something that will be inspiring, and something will happen that you want to learn more, or you want to be engaged with the IP. You can, for example, in Moomin Valley, we kind of asked children and families to draw the artwork to the Moomin House and everything, so that they felt that, yeah, we are part of this. We are part of this IP. And even though when we started Moomin Valley, we also asked the fans through Indiegogo that, what do you want to see? What makes you tick? What are the things, kind of yes and no's, that we can do as creators? And this is something that we kind of constantly are doing with the fans and new and old ones. So therefore, I think that we have a huge responsibility, and therefore the see good, be gutsy.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I'd like to stick with the Moomins a little bit, though. I can remember as a child, I being, the Wombles was the thing when I was small, and that was all about recycling and caring for the environment. And I'm old, and it's taken a long time, but the sort of the Nordic equivalent, I suppose, is the Moomins. The Moomins are all about sustainability, and sort of all of that is integrated into the fabric of the show. How does that kind of ethos spread into Gutsy? And what about sustainability and caring for the environment? Is that part of your ethos too?
Yeah, I think that respect for nature is kind of in all of our productions somehow, and I think that it's so essential, especially in our writing and our stories. But it's also that we see ourselves part of the nature, not above the nature. And these kind of stories, that how to have the same curiosity towards the nature. And of course, we were really proud because Moomin Valley got Albert certificate first in Finland as all of the productions. So people who are studying now in Finland to be part of the Albert certificate, we were the first ones there. But of course, there is a lot to be done still. So I think that we have kind of like, we are recycling, we are doing all kinds of things, but now, and it all comes to the details and also the investments, like, do you build the shower so that you encourage people to kind of take the bikes to the office and these kind of things? So we always can improve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go to the broadcaster next, Lucy. And I'm going to ask you, how much emphasis does Sky Kids put on sustainability in the content that's broadcast?
A huge amount, and it's not a recent thing. We've been very active in sort of talking about sustainability and doing it and proving it and setting high targets for anyone we work with. So I know, as part of our Greenlight documents, you don't get a commission from Sky without signing up to hit those targets. And importantly, we will help you. So, thinking back to, in 2006, we were the first media company to be net neutral. We were a founding partner for Albert, which is a fantastic initiative, which is not only an initiative and a set of guidelines, but a set of resources to help producers, because it's really hard when you're trying to make something amazing and keep your company running and work to a budget and a schedule, and then you get another whole layer of, oh, and by the way. So we feel it's really necessary to help producers and work really collaboratively.
Yeah.
But we're also really keen to make, working with Gutsy on Moomin Valley, one of the sort of key principles that really attracted us to it was that you can't sort of do finger-wagging content for kids. You can't do the doom and gloom, because that's just, people don't listen. Nobody wants to listen to be told the world's going to end. But also, you created a world in Moomin Valley that was beautiful. And I really passionately believe that children need to know that there's a world worth saving, and that is about natural history, is about exploring sort of small, sort of mini activists. Oh, it's too late. I was up too late last night. You know what I mean? It's small steps. It can be so overwhelming, and that whole idea of the sort of children thinking that humanity is doomed is terrible. We do have to give hope. Yeah. We have to show small things, and we have to support each other, because it's not up to any one of us. Collectively, we've all got to do it together, because the shift in order to hit the targets that have been set are enormous. So we work with producers, we set high targets, and we also expect all content to have storylines woven through them, not as the point of the show, but just normalizing behaviors that go way beyond sort of reduce, reuse, recycle, because as you say, they've been around since we were kids, and we've got to think deeper and harder than that now. So we have something called the sort of planet placement test of, in a show, in the editorial, are you showing the positive impacts of positive behaviours, and are you actually talking about the negative impacts of behaviours? So yeah, we have high standards, and I think we all need collectively to hit those.
Yeah, we all need to raise the benchmarks a little, don't we? And sustainability is part of the B Corp status, right?
Yeah, it's a big part of B Corp, because I think when we went through certification, which took over a year to do it, so it's a very intensive process, quite rightly. These things shouldn't be, light touch. A fifth of that is environmental, measuring your environmental footprint. Again, similar to Albert, to know what your impact is. And so I think we went through 200 different metrics we had to measure in our studio, and a lot of those were doing a complete carbon audit of our company. And I think one of the key things of being a B Corp is you're putting your name out there, saying, look, we're a B Corp, and critically you're saying it to all your staff as well. So one of the unforeseen things that we've seen is people see that, and they'll kind of not try and trip you up, but they'll question when you're not doing a B Corp-y thing, which I don't think would have happened if we just said, we want to be positive, we want to do environmental, sustainable things. But when we're a B Corp, in the studio, people say, well, that's not very B Corp. I think someone opened our kitchen cupboard and realised our coffee wasn't, someone had bought coffee that wasn't from a trusted supply chain. And they said, that's not very B Corp. So we changed and made sure that everything in our kitchen was from trusted supply chains. And it's just all those small things, I think, in terms of sustainability. It's all about, like you said, it's all about those kind of marginal gains. And it's about everyone doing those small things. But companies need to play a critical part of it, because companies, at the end of the day, wield all the power to actually have the money to drive that change. And it is hard for individuals to make that change. But then there's awareness of, especially when everyone's kind of working remotely, encouraging staff to switch to kind of green energy tariffs and so forth. So it's all these little things, and that does require a framework which we've found B Corp brilliant for.
I guess it's making sure people are constantly questioning themselves. We're not always able to get it right all of the time, but if you're putting a structure in place where things are constantly being questioned, that can only be a good thing. But at the same time, things change really, really quickly. And the thing with animation is it takes forever. Once you've developed an idea, you're a couple of years. Once you've got it into production, you've got another couple of years. You can easily be 5 years before the idea that you had, 5 years before the idea that you've had actually ends up on screen, by which time the world planet could be dead. So, is the question, is activism just a bit of a dead donkey in animation, and it's much easier in live action, so we all need to swap? But seriously, how can animation creators balance the longevity of their content alongside positive messaging? Andrew, I'm going to ask you this question first.
You're asking me to answer the question how we're going to
Save the world, go on.
save the world.
How do we save the world without taking?
I'm glad you all could join me here today. I have my 5-part plan. Thank you for that question. So
You're here.
it all
begin
starts
with
here,
Andrew.
people. It all starts here. No, but I think what we need to do really, we need to be. I'm going to use loads of buzzwords here because I can't think of any decent answer. We need to be a bit leaner in terms of how we're developing things. We need to tighten up the timelines. I think there's also there's an immediacy which has come out of being locked down for 2 years, where we were all exposed to more content than we ever thought we could consume, all the time. So we were seeing things, but there's shifts happening all over the place, and I think their ideas are breaking through in different ways. So we as kind of older dudes of my generation need to kind of look at that and try to replicate or, in some way modify our approach to get ideas through a bit faster, And I think, but that's a partnership that needs to take place with broadcast and investment and everybody else, government as well, where we have those funds in place. So, and it just involves a flexible mentality, I think. So with Adam, we did set out to, we said, look, we've got a kind of a ticking clock here, because Adam's health condition is what it is, and, we need to be mindful of that as well. So that was one of the, we've had that conversation with everybody we've been speaking to, we're making the show and we need to make the show kind of sooner rather than later, really. So we're, but I mean, that's something that I think, you're right, it's a huge footprint. Not in all our lives. We're not getting any younger, and there's a lot of young people here today who can take that baton and run with it. But we do need to kind of get things out faster, and it's doable. It's succinctness. It's just getting to the point a little bit faster. The world needs it. I think we're all aware of that. You were talking about just passively consuming content, and we became super aware of how much passivity there is. In content consumption during lockdown. And I certainly felt that as well. I felt that need to be stimulated. And I think as a population, as a kind of species, we need more stimulation in that regard. And, we need to jog us out of that negativity, that 56% of people who think the world is doomed,
But it's about making, making things every day. I know we did some work at Sky last year with the behavioural studies group, which really look at, the sort of nudge techniques, which sound ominous and can be, I'm sure, if they're used in the wrong way. But it's, what are the small things we can do that just shift behaviours and shift thought, so that it's not that overwhelming, oh, we're all doomed, what can I do? Nothing, okay, head down. It's more about how can we sort of encourage and, as you said, give hope and make things so animated shows that are not about the climate or sustainability, but just show things in a positive light.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that the longevity question is a little bit there, because, all good art prompts people to think and to discuss further. And you know, our responsibility as content makers is to provoke that discussion within our audience. So you can do that at any time, whether that's a program made in 1976 or a program made in 2026. It doesn't really matter so long as it provokes discussion.
I think-
Sorry, this is not my show, sorry.
Also, I was just going to add that I think one of the things that takes so long in animation is going from commission to
Yes.
delivery. What's quicker is going from script to delivery.
Yeah.
So I think all of those things, like you're saying, can be embedded in those more kind of continuously updated themes and trends.
Yeah, and
can be
technology is our friend here, right? Because there are so many animation techniques now that are quicker than we could ever have imagined in the days of light boxes and hand drawing cells.
So I think there just needs to be more, I guess, accountability in the writers' rooms as well to try and embed those themes in an ongoing process, so they are normalised and it's not box ticking. It's actually embedding it authentically.
And don't design a car, design a bike. And if you're designing a school, make sure there are sort of recycling bins in the canteen. And it's all those small things that, instead of adding it as a layer afterwards, that should be ground up. Because, as you say, the writer's room is the time to put these things in.
Yeah.
Something you said there, Lucy, as well, just about the empowering the audience to make small acts. And you mentioned as well creativity, like, you know, that I was at Cartoon 360 in Lille, and they had this guy, Koen Timmers, who I think Cartoon Network had hired, and they found this as well. There was a climate anxiety among children, like that they felt, and the statistics were really depressing. Like they felt like there's nothing we can do, and that's the absolutely worst frame of mind for our children to be in, that they feel, what's the point? You know, that's terrifying. So on one side you've got the Gretas who are amazing, but it's sort of a lot of children are just like frightened by it. So if we can find, collectively as a community in the creative and broadcast community, if we can find ways of doing smaller, more granular empowerments pieces, and I know you've been involved in this, before, working on shorts that just had a message to them or hadn't been done, and planting that seed, those ideas of positivity in ways that the audience can go out and make small, measurable changes in their own environment, wherever that might be.
Yeah, and I would like to add that also, even you have such a huge kind of project as Moomin Valley, I think that what has been really good, that it's nearly like we think, again, that as a movement. So we are constantly talking with the fans and talking about the themes. And for example, right now with the third season, I think that it was wonderful that we don't think that Moomin Valley only happens on the screen. We kind of see that the fans are getting together and seeing the episodes together, talking about the episodes together, thinking about the different themes. How do you see this or that or whatever? And I think that we have to do I'm also for as you know, big productions that will live forever, so that we really invest to the best possible content to the children. And
that's true, because that longevity is
exactly, and
again,
I'm
another element of sustainability.
Exactly. Yes, exactly, and I think that that's really important. That, for example, right now the Moomin Valley has been out on Sky, coming to Wiley next fall. But all the time we are thinking about different countries and different things, that events and talks and whatever we can do to encourage people to be part of the kind of world. And I think that the world is going to that place. And in my beautiful, beautiful future kind of world, the fans and the audience will be deciding together with the broadcasters, what do we want to see?
That's a brilliant place for us to wrap up. Unfortunately, we are running out of time if we want to take Q&A. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you on the panel, what do you want the future to look like, and how can we as an industry help make it happen? Tom, do you want to go first?
It's another big question, isn't it?
You were asked it before, though, so hopefully you've prepared it.
I think it's all about being aware that how all those little things can add up, and everyone has a responsibility to be part of that. So never kind of think, oh, it's someone else's responsibility to be progressive in terms of sustainability, disability. All of those things do add up, and everyone can make change. You don't have to rely on someone else to do it.
Yep. Lucy?
I think we need to be constantly forward-thinking and really sort of creatively restless. We can't sit on our laurels and think, okay, I've made that show, we've done it. But as you were saying, we've got to share. We've got, amongst us as a community, a lot of shared knowledge. Well, how did you do that? And how did you find that? And this bit's really difficult. So talking and sharing and making it a conversation that is ongoing is really important.
Thank you. Marika?
I think that children in the future should feel kind of part of the community and be active in the community. I hope that we will make incredible programs to inspire them and with them. And I do believe, as Lucy knows, that I believe in the huge projects. And it's because that if we invest to the children, I think that we invest to the future, and therefore bring the hope and finding them to find a way to be an active member of the society.
Yeah.
I think optimism is a survival mechanism that's really needed at the moment. And when I see what's happening in Ukraine, and you see those kids singing in bomb shelters and standing in the ruins of their school, graduating, and they've this defiance and spark in them, you know. And I think we need to foster that. We need to create and inspire content that, you know, that there's hope. You know, there's hope there. We do. I think we kind of trivialize a little bit what we do. We have a responsibility.
We do. We have a power to reach millions of people every day.
Yeah, it's you know, we sort of go cartoons and fun and all that kind of thing, but really it has far-reaching influence. I think we just need to be super mindful of that and serve that objective, you know, as producers and as everybody in our community.
Well, I'm still talking about the Wombles 50 years ago. You know? It had an impact.
It did.
Thank you, everybody, very much indeed. I'm now going to open my little gadget and hope that there are some questions. In my glasses. All right. First one. From Ms. Anon. What are the important issues you'd start to cover in new content today if you knew it would need a minimum of 2 to 3 years to develop and make it? So going back to that longevity question. Anybody want to take that? If you had a crystal ball and you could see into the future, 2 to 3 years, what was the most relevant topic? What would you be thinking about developing now, I guess, is that question.
How to deal... Sorry.
Well, I can answer. Sorry, if you want to go first.
Go.
I think that one of the things that is really important is resilience. That I think that children that go through anxiety and everything, they have to understand that whatever trauma they have, they can come through that. And I mean that resilience is something that I would like to add in every single thing that we are creating right now.
I was going to say that, yeah. Just how to deal with a very, what appears to be a bleak future ahead of you, that kind of positive mental attitude and growth mindset, because I think young people need every bit of help they can get in terms of how to have that optimism and drive to change.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm going to take the word hope out of this panel today. That seems to be the thing we need.
Definitely, and also just leaving space in a production for a child, whether it's for their imagination to be inspired and think, wow, or whether it's for them to see somebody doing something and copy it, or whether it's to have received a bit of support for anxiety they're feeling in a more overt way. But I think it's not one answer, it's lots of different things.
Got a couple of other really good questions here, actually. Just thinking of the technical challenges of animation. How can animation bring deaf characters to screen, given the practical challenges around sign language and its international versions, not to mention animating it? Anyone want to take that?
Well, actually, there are a couple of projects that are floating around at the moment that have cracked that through, again, technology is our friend, and there's some really interesting work being done in that very field. And it's really important. It's another part of sort of accessibility and inclusivity to not only portray characters, but also to invite that section of the audience in.
Here's a tricky one. How can, she says, sat here with her technology, phones, Apple, iPads, how can producers and broadcasters balance the huge amount of consumption of energy and energy costs that comes hand in hand with producing a show with the environmental concerns they're trying to weave in? And then we add on the licensed products. But yeah, technology consumes a lot of energy.
I think there are ways that you can kind of develop content from shows that start the IP away from screens to encourage kind of more play that don't involve being glued, having your eyeballs glued to a screen. And I think I don't think it's an impossible problem to solve. And there are many shows that excel in having great products that encourage imaginative, creative play away from screens.
And I think it's up to big companies like Sky, which is part of an even bigger parent company, Comcast, to be making real commitments to offset our carbon footprint, which we do.
I think on top of that, it's also about reducing as well, not just offsetting.
And actually, the whole pandemic has just shown us that we don't need to be on a plane every 5 minutes going to a writers' meeting. We don't need to be in the office every single day. I mean, of course, nothing can quite beat the spark of being around the writers' room table together, but we've proven that we can do it. We've made great shows in the last 2 years, and we can carry on doing that.
True, but it has had an impact on people's well-being, though, hasn't it?
And that's the balance thing again. So, at Sky we're in 3 days a week now instead of 5. That's a pretty good balance, actually. You get the community, you get the joy of bumping into somebody, but you also have 2 days where you're not travelling for 2 hours to get into the office.
But it's really funny. I have just kind of heard about study that when we see ourselves on the screen, and especially when we are creating, people are controlling their face expressions more. So you start to have like good ideas or bad ideas. It's presented with a stone face, and you never know what the people are kind of thinking. And therefore, even though we have kind of cut off traveling and everything, still when we are starting a new show or we are doing this kind of first creative workshop, I kind of really need to see the people so that they are not just stone-faced.
On that note, I think it's important to remember on the disability note in terms of companies saying everyone's got to come back to work, because in terms of disabilities, working from home is liberated.
It is, absolutely.
Some roles in that sense. I think companies have got to be very cautious.
It's been very illuminating, hasn't it?
Everyone's got to come back, because it will undo a lot of good things as well, but it's all about balance.
Have we got time for one more question? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been quite enlightening. If you haven't been watching this online now, hello everybody online.
Well done for not travelling.
You can watch this online within the next couple of days on the CMC YouTube channel. I think that's where it is. But I would like to invite the lovely panel to leave the stage, and then we are going to welcome the Story Draw team to the stage, please. So thank you very much to our panel.
Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Natalie Llewellyn, John Mason, and one of our secret Story Draw winners. This is an incredible initiative to support underrepresented artists. I'm going to ask John to introduce the initiative and tell us a little bit more.
Thanks. Hi. So the Secret Story Draw is really it's a campaign that's just full of optimism. And what we wanted to try and do was to encourage underrepresented ethnicities to see the children's media industry as an open door, as a place that you can come and work and you can sort of progress your career. So how we went about that was to get writers to create these very short stories for us, and then we invited artists to come to the website and actually generate artwork in response to those stories. And then we had a panel from the industry, a very esteemed panel from the industry, who judged those bits of artwork. And rather than giving the winners gongs, which everyone loves a gong, I've got a few, but what we wanted to do is actually give the prizes were actually 3-month paid internships. And we had some phenomenal studios that came forward last year. We did really well. We managed to place 12 people into studios like Aardman, Blue Zoo, Jellyfish, to name a few, and it was successful. So we want to repeat it again this year. So at the moment we've got 9 studios in place, and we've got our writers as well. So it's like I say, it's a campaign full of optimism, and we're sort of taking some action on it and actually getting people into meaningful sort of opportunities that can grow into careers.
Thank you. Yeah, Sally, tell us a little bit about your experience with the Story Draw.
Hi everyone, my name is Zulaikha, Salika, or Sully. I normally go by Sully at work, and honestly my whole life completely just flipped, if I'm being honest. I was working at Marks and Spencer's, scrolling through Instagram, saw the advertisement for the Secret Story Draw, had nothing to lose, submitted, and ended up winning a 3-month internship. And it felt like an opportunity that was too good to be true. Turns out to be true, which was shocking. Sorry. And then that 3 months turned into nearly a year at Jellyfish Pictures. And I think the transition from going from a toxic work environment and to a healthy work environment was something to unpack as well. So the Jellyfish recently did 2 weeks ago did the well-being awareness week, which I did not know was a thing, and just to see how they raised awareness with depression, anxiety, and things especially with lockdown and everyone else being secluded and being away from human interactions, which is a big part of because we are social beings, let's just be honest. So just to see them throw stuff to actually help not just newbies like me, but also people who've been working there for 10 years as well, just to take care. But none of this would have been possible without Secret Story Draw, which is okay, so I was working here, now I bounced to one thing to another, and that's just incredible. So yeah, hi everyone.
Oh, I feel a bit emotional.
Magic.
I can't advocate the Secret Story Draw enough. It is an incredible initiative to offer opportunity to talented, aspiring animators and illustrators who come from underrepresented ethnicities who would not normally have an opportunity to break into the industry. Jellyfish Pictures is based in Brixton, London. It's a BAME community. It's absolutely integral to our culture and creativity and community to be able to offer access, support, training, mentorship, and opportunity to brilliant people like Sully. And actually, Sully's story is testament to the success of the campaign. She came in, has impressed us from the start. Worked on a quite small community project for Pop Brixton, has progressed with us in the visual development department working on one of our original IPs, and is currently working on a major Netflix animated series with Lime Pictures. So congratulations for any studios or producers, creators out there who haven't participated in it. I urge you to get involved at the next one. And for all of those that did get involved last year, I hope to see you back at this one. But well done, and it's great to have you.
So I guess the plug here, this is why I'm really here, is to plug it big time. So if there's anyone out there today, so right now we've got 9 studios that are offering internships. Gutsy, who were on stage just earlier, thank you very much, and Tom Box from Bluezoo, of course, Natalie. We've got the BBC on board. We had 12 studios last year, which meant we got to give away 12 prizes, sort of life-changing opportunities for people. We've got 9 at the moment. I would really like 12. I would like more, but that's what I'd like. So in your bags, for the delegation bags, there would have been a flyer for this, and up on the screen there is all the details that you need. So if you do want to be involved as a studio, or you want to be a writer next year for it, or you happen to be someone who's in PR who wants to sort me out pro bono, I'm going to be in the bar straight after this. So just come up and speak to me, and I'd love for you to be involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, John will be in the bar later taking drinks from anyone who wants to. I would encourage anyone to join this initiative. It does sound like an amazing thing. So, thank you very much for coming this afternoon. If you could make your way out as quickly as possible so that the guys here can get set up for creative keynotes. This is one not to miss because the change makers up before it are TikTok comics, Ollie Ball and Jacob Pasquill, and if you don't know them yet, you'll soon be wanting to tell everyone. I saw them first at CMC. Then, hot off the press release, it's the new Children's Laureate, performance poet Joseph Coelho, who's promising to create a poem on the spot with our help. It's a great way to end a very busy day. That's at 6:30, just enough time for a quick drink with John in the bar, which is now open, and we'll see you back here at 6:30. Thank you very much.